spiritual solutions, which, by the way, I think is one of the best things you've done since Seven Spiritual Laws. Really, really great book. And I was saying to the audience earlier, I believe that for every problem, literally, other than food and shelter, the basic needs. But for all of our problems that we think are problems, that the only way they can really be resolved is through a spiritual solution.
That's right. So, if you have a problem, you're living in a contracted state of awareness at that moment, which means you're living in fear, so you're feeling separate. That's where the problem comes. When you're connected with other people, with the web of life, which is the beginning of spirituality, that's when solutions occur. And when you're at one, then there are no problems and no solutions. There's just the creative evolutionary impulse of the universe, and you are the vehicle for it.
So to be
scientific proof, I think science is, and again, in deference to Sam Harris, he said, don't go the way of quantum physics. I think I'm going to have to say that science is now in a process of overthrowing the climactic overthrow of the superstition of materialism. That everything that we call matter comes from something that is not material. That the essential nature of the physical world is that it's not physical. That the essential stuff of the universe is non-stuff. Call it what you will. And science also tells us, and if there are any scientists who want to disagree with them, please come up during the question and answer session. Science tells us that nature is a discontinuity, that it's an on-off phenomenon, that there are gaps between every two ons, where you find a field of possibilities, a field of pure potentiality. It tells us that this is a field of non-locality, where everything is correlated with everything else. My adversaries are going to point out there are quantum leaps of creativity, that there's something called the observer effect, where intention orchestrates space-time events, which we then measure as movement and motion and energy and matter. We have to do today.
Did you hear anything in there that convinces you?
You asked Dan what I meant by woo-woo. That is the very embodiment of woo-woo. He said, stringing together at a rapid patter of a bunch of scientific sounding words sprinkled in with some spiritual new age words doesn't mean anything. I mean, just take one example of this non-local quantum effects, we're all connected. No, this is not true. When quantum physicists talk about non-locality and the interconnectedness of things, they're talking about things at the quantum level.
Wait, well, let me just stop you for a second, because I will play the dummy tonight, because it's not a hard role for me to assume. What does non-local mean? I mean, I kind of understand what quantum physics means, but just give it to me really.
The deeper point to make here, and what is...
But I want to address that brain thing that you just said.
Okay,
let's finish.
You might not have to, because the deeper point here, and this is where the whole style and content of what you're saying is so deeply unscientific, is that there's not a physicist sitting on this stage right now. Okay, I would never be tempted to lecture a room full of 1,000 people at Caltech about physics. I'm not a physicist. You're not a physicist. And basically every sentence demonstrates that you speak on the subject. Please don't take this as ad hominem. I mean, I'm talking about specifically what you said. But what you do and what many people who try to invoke spooky physics do in the service of propping up their religious and New Age intuitions is that they think that because what you're saying, because quantum mechanics is spooky and difficult to understand, and because what you're saying is spooky and difficult to understand, they must somehow be related, or they must somehow be mutually supportive. And that's fundamentally not true. They are arrived at by completely different methodologies and ways of thinking and criteria of discursive evidence. What a mystic, I've studied with great mystics. And so these are completely different language games. They're completely, and you have just merged them together in a very unprincipled way. And you're getting
well, no, I take resentment at your questioning my scientific credentials. In fact, if anyone on this stage is more scientifically credentialed, it's me. I took physics, chemistry, biology. I'm an MD. I'm a neuroendocrinologist. And I want to object to your saying that the brain does not obey non-locality. You know, when you right now, when you're thinking right now, 100 trillion neurons are phase locking and frequency locking in simultaneously. Is that non-locality or not?
Okay,
Can I just have...
Can I just...
And it's a game that is designed for export to people who don't know much science and don't know how science is done. And you missed the point of, I mean, I wasn't criticizing your scientific credentials. You're an endocrinologist. You're an MD. You're not a theoretical physicist. I mean, the way science is done is
I invite theoretical physicists in this audience to actually address these questions.
Okay, so a theoretical physicist will be comfortable talking with real confidence in a very narrow band of his expertise, and he will be exquisitely sensitive to the fact that when he's in a room like this, or she, sorry. I'll just proceed with he just for simplicity's sake here. He will be exquisitely sensitive to the fact that whenever he opens his mouth in a room like this, he is guaranteed to be speaking in front of half a dozen people who know more on any given issue than he does. The great irony of the popular conception of science as arrogant is that when you go to a scientific meeting, you don't see arrogance. I mean, you're about as likely to see real arrogance as you're likely to see nudity at a scientific conference. I mean, people are constantly offering caveats and hedges toward what they say. Every statement is couched in, I'm sure there's someone in the room who knows more about this than me, but because everyone is desperate to avoid public embarrassment. Now, this seems to be something you're not doing.
Leonard Mladinov.
And so, Leonard, you are a quantum physicist?
I'm a theoretical physicist, and I'm also writing a book with Stephen Hawking.
So, in the spirit of our no comments, just questions, what's your question? And to whom? I'll hold the mic.
Oh, you hold the mic. All right. That means it really has to be a question. Okay.
Right. This is my form of
This would be to Deepak to say, would you like to have a short course in quantum mechanics sometime so that we can straighten out your slightly misuse of quantum notation?
Thank you, Leonard.
I would be honored, sir, and I accept your offer with great gratitude. And I would like to be educated so I can be clearer in my dialogue. By the way, today is Einstein's birthday, so we are at a very fitting place. And it just occurred to me, 3.14 is the approximation of the first approximation of pi, which refers to infinity. So as long as your quantum physics explanations help me understand infinity, I would be honored.
That would be good, but we'll have to keep it local, though. I don't think we can make it non-local.
No, but
can I bother you for just a second? What is it?
Sir, do you, sir, believe in the infinite?
I believe I understand to some extent the concept of infinity. I'm not sure what it means to believe in the infinite.
Okay. Do you think that your mathematics requires the infinite to explain things that you explain to people?
We do use the concept of infinity quite a lot.
Thank you.
We do. You're welcome.
What is it about Deepak's use of quantum physics that bothers you?
The term non-local, the use was not correct, and the correlations of the, I don't know, the pacemaker and the different electrical things going on.
I happen to disagree, by the way.
Oh, I assume you did since you said that.
You know, you're Italian. I happen to disagree.
I would love to. I'd love to talk about it.
I think consciousness is non-local.
I'm sorry?
I think consciousness is non-local.
Consciousness. Oh.
Is non-local.
Yeah, you know, I've never really run across a definition of consciousness that I understood. So maybe you could teach me something, and I can.
A field, a superposition of possibilities.
Okay, well, all right. I know what each of those words means. I still don't think I know it.
I'm right now talking to a conscious being.
I'm sorry?
I'm speaking to a conscious being.
I hope so.
Even though this
Yeah,
in
at times.
space and time.